Hey family and friends, today we're going to talk about combat, and as you can tell, I got my gi on from karate class that I spent one semester in at Western. Go Cats. I spent 6 years wrestling, and so I'm much more comfortable with that. However, I wanted to save myself the embarrassment and your eyes seeing me in a singlet, and I also couldn't find my wrestling shoes, so this is the next best thing. But in all seriousness, Ephesians 6:12 says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." It's this idea that, hey, this isn't just flesh and blood. We're just not battling something that you and I can see. Everything that we see on the news, everything that we see on social media, everything that we hear and encounter, there is something on the unseen realm side of things, to where there are demonic attacks out the wazoo going on right now. And in all seriousness, we have to be aware as Christians, as Christ followers, as disciples. We have to be aware and have our eyes and our hearts open to where, hey, we are fighting some serious attacks right now, but we're not in this alone. And it says that we got to take on the armor of God in Ephesians 6. And so just a couple things that I just want to hit briefly. Obviously, this is a switch up. I just want it to be funny for you guys, but also bring a visual element to this. When I wrestled in middle school and high school, shout out to Coach Baker, he taught us when we were in our wrestling stances, our first line of defense was our hands. So if someone goes after your head, your hands guard you. If somebody goes after your legs, your hands guard you. If someone is maneuvering around you, your hands always stay up. In the same way, what is your first defense in the spiritual realm? One, it's prayer. Are you spending time talking to the God that's over these demonic forces? Are you spending time in the Word? Are you spending time filling your mind with verses that can counter the attacks of the enemy when he comes at you at the least expected moments? Do you have your guard up? Have you done your stretches before you go to war? I don't know about you, but I can't hardly do anything anymore exercise-wise without stretching, or else I'm gonna pull a hammy. In the same way with our spiritual battles, they call it a run in Scripture. We are exercising, we are doing our walk. We can't just go at it. We have to practice, we have to stretch, and all these things. And in the same way, in the spiritual realm, you have to fill your minds with the truth. Jesus calls himself the living water. He calls himself, I am the bread of life. When I wrestled, I didn't eat much bread, but I drank a lot of water. And after those periods of the wrestling matches, I was soaking in all the water that I could because I was dehydrated, and that was the one thing that I really thirst for, and that could keep me going into the next round. And so, in the same way, are you filling yourself with the living water that never runs out? We're not going to be able to combat these spiritual attacks without putting in the work on our part. Now it's not on you to save yourself, but you have to put in the work to prepare yourself for battle. In Proverbs it says that the horse is prepared for battle, but the victory is the Lord's. Think about that. The horse is the one that runs the race, but the horse ultimately, it's not the victor. It's the one that put in the work, that trained, that delivered the victory, and that is the Lord's. So what are you doing in the spiritual realm of things to prepare yourself? Are you performing these tasks of constantly filling your mind with these truths? Are you spending time in community? Or are you telling yourself and believing the lies that, no, I can do this thing all by myself? Our pastor Timothy gave a great message this weekend on how, it's one thing to say, hey, I don't like you, Justin, but it's another thing to say, I like you, I just don't like your bride. We're a package duo. In the same way, you can't say, Jesus, I love you, but I don't love your bride, the church. You can't say, Jesus, I want you, but I don't want community in the church. Friends, if you're not plugged into a local church, it's not optional. There is no plan B. You're gonna spend eternity with these other believers, so you might as well get used to them. And two, how do you think You're going to be able to bench press a new personal record without a spotter. See, when you do life in community, you get to fight these battles together. You get to have somebody call on you at 11:30 at night when you're about to slip into that temptation and say, hey, I'm about to mess up. I'm about to fall. I'm about to do something that I'm going to regret. And they come along and say, no, you can do this. When Jesus in Matthew 4 was fighting the temptation of the enemy, he fought with Scripture. He fought with obedience to the Father. And guess what? The enemy fled. He was exhausted, and the angels came and scooped him up. You see, the battle, there is all this energy that we have to put into it. And if you're not wrestling against these things, then you're just laying down. You see, we got to wrestle. We got to combat. It's not a matter of always winning every single match, but you got to make an action and a habit of being active in your faith and combating these things and wrestling these things. So don't just roll over and give in to temptation time and time again. Don't entertain those sinful thoughts and desires and following through with your actions. You got to put in the work on your part and pray like crazy and say, God, I'm a warrior down here. I need you to deliver me from this. And the thing is when we get to the end of our lives, we're not meant to finish the race and reach the finish line all clean and without any bruises. No, we should be dragging. We should say, God, I am exhausted because I was fighting the good fight. Are you wrestling with these things, or are you giving in to them? Be a warrior this week. Make sure you stretch, and make sure that you're using your first line of defense, and that is prayer and knowing that you serve the God over all these attacks. You're loved.